The Galactic Council's emergency session had lasted 14 rotations. Representatives from 47 species crowded the crystalline amphitheater, their various forms of agitation filling the air with a cacophony of clicks, growls, and electromagnetic pulses. At the center of their heated debate stood a single human, Captain Sarah Chen, arms crossed, waiting with the patience that had become legendary among the stars. "The human combat trials have become problematic," announced Counselor Vextar, his chitinous frame clicking nervously. "In 3 cycles, this creature has defeated our finest warriors from 17 different worlds. The viewing audiences are beginning to question the supremacy of their own species." A rumble of agreement swept through the chamber. The Krillian ambassador's tentacles writhed in distress. "My champion, Gorith the Bone Crusher, has not spoken since his defeat. He simply stares at walls and mutters about impossible leverage and physics that shouldn't work." "The human uses no enhanced technology," added the ethereal Zephyrian representative, her voice like wind through crystal caves. "Our scans detect no cybernetic implants, no genetic modifications, no combat drugs. Yet she consistently defeats opponents 3 times her mass with apparent ease." Chen remained silent, having learned that her words only seemed to agitate the council further. She'd tried explaining concepts like momentum, joint locks, and pressure points, but the translations never seemed adequate. How could she make them understand that humans had spent millennia perfecting the art of defeating larger, stronger opponents? Counselor Vextar's mandibles clicked decisively. "Therefore, the Council hereby bans all forms of violence from arena combat. The next trial will be a test of intellectual prowess. Yes, a battle of minds, not bodies." Chen finally spoke, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustics. "What kind of intellectual challenge?" "A puzzle-solving competition," declared the counselor, clearly pleased with himself. "Ancient precursor technology. The candidate who can activate the most precursor devices within the time limit will be declared the winner. Surely creatures that evolved beyond physical conflict will demonstrate superior mental capabilities." The chosen arena was a vast, archaeological site on the moon of Kepler 442c. Precursor ruins stretched across the barren landscape, like metallic coral, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that had puzzled xenoarchaeologists for centuries. 43 devices of unknown purpose dotted the complex, each waiting for the correct sequence of touches, sounds, or energy patterns to bring them to life. Chen's opponents were impressive, 3 of the galaxy's most renowned intellectuals. Dr. Quillvarth of the Cerebral Collective possessed 17 interconnected brains. Professor Zix could process quantum calculations in real time. The third competitor, Mindsinger Allura, could interface directly with most known technologies through psychic resonance. The trial began at dawn. Chen watched her opponents immediately begin their approaches. Quillvarth started a methodical analysis of the mathematical relationships between device positions. Zix began running probability matrices on symbol combinations, and Allura placed her hands on the nearest device, closing her eyes in concentration. Chen walked to the center of the complex and sat down. For 20 minutes, she simply observed. She watched how the morning light hit the metallic surfaces. She noticed which devices cast shadows on others and how those shadows moved. She observed the subtle variations in the patterns, not the complex symbols that drew everyone's attention, but the tiny imperfections, the wear patterns, the way dust had settled over millennia. Then she stood up and began to move. Her approach baffled the observers. Instead of attempting to decode the symbols or interface with the technology, she began to play. She hummed simple melodies while tracing patterns with her finger. She skipped stones across the surfaces of larger devices. She even began juggling small rocks in complex patterns while walking between installations. The first device activated when she laughed. Not at anything in particular, just a genuine expression of joy at the beautiful complexity surrounding her. The precursor device, shaped like a spiral shell, began to glow with soft blue light. The second activated when she started dancing. It wasn't any formal dance, just the natural movement of someone enjoying music only she could hear. As she spun and stepped between the devices, they began responding to her presence, her energy, her unmistakably human vitality. By the time the other competitors realized what was happening, Chen had activated 15 devices simply by being authentically human in their presence. Dr. Quillvarth, despite his vast processing power, had managed to activate only 3 devices through pure analytical brute force. Professor Zix had successfully interfaced with 2 by correctly guessing their mathematical keys. Mindsinger Allura, for all her psychic abilities, had found only 1 device that responded to her particular mental frequency. But Chen continued moving through the complex like a conductor leading an orchestra. She sang childhood songs to crystalline formations that resonated with her voice. She told jokes to devices that somehow appreciated humor. She even performed impromptu magic tricks, causing mechanisms to activate out of what appeared to be sheer delight at the unexpected. When the time limit expired, 38 of the 43 devices were glowing, humming, or displaying patterns of light. The archaeological site had been transformed into something alive, responsive, almost joyful. In the stunned silence that followed, Chen walked back to the center and sat down again, slightly out of breath but grinning. "How?" whispered Counselor Vextar over the communication array. Chen looked up at the observation platform where the council members waited for an explanation. "You assumed the precursors were like you, logical, analytical, focused on intellect and efficiency. But what if they were like us? What if they built things that responded not to perfect calculation, but to curiosity, creativity, and joy? What if they understood that intelligence without wonder is just computation?" She gestured to the glowing devices around her. "You tried to solve them like puzzles. I just tried to understand them like people." The implications hung in the air like charged particles. Somewhere in the vast archaeological sites scattered across the galaxy, humanity's greatest discovery might not be advanced technology or scientific knowledge, but the simple recognition that intelligence and emotion, logic and creativity, were never meant to be separated. As Chen was declared the winner, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. The council had forbidden violence to stop her from winning, not realizing that the most human victory of all would be won not through force or even intellect alone, but through the one thing that made humans truly unique in the galaxy, their ability to find wonder and joy in the universe around them. The precursors, it seemed, had understood that long ago.